Well, good morning, everyone, and welcome to day 2 of the California Teaching and Coaching Summit. I'd like to take an opportunity just to personally thank Randy Chang and Jamie Mulligan for their vision, their leadership, their commitment to this event. And of course, as a PGA member myself, I value the opportunity this event brings in making me and all of us better at our craft. 4 years ago, we started this, and it has become a tremendous success. And although we're online this year, we're all together in spirit, and we're all getting better. I want to thank all of our wonderful speakers and guests yesterday. I know we will continue that great momentum today with some of our section's best. Also want to give a quick shout out to Travis Matthew, our title sponsor, for once again being a partner in this event. We couldn't do it without your help, so thank you so much. As a quick little aside this morning, I'd like to just make a comment. Some of the things that we're seeing in the news lately around our game are really cool, and it's a testament to our great instructors. Rose Zhang is the #1 girls amateur in the world right now. Haley Moore just happened to make the cover of 4 magazine this past month. And of course, Colin Morikawa is our PGA champion, our reigning PGA champion, thanks to Rick Sessinghaus and all of those that are in his camp. And you're going to get to hear from Rick today. So it's really exciting for me to serve you, our section members, these last couple of years, and really exciting to see all the great instructors that have come through our program and the great players thanks to you. So thank you very much, and without further ado, I'd like to turn it over to our CEO and Executive Director, Mr. Tom Addis.
Thank you, Tony, and good morning, everyone. It's really good to be with you, and we have a great program for the balance of the morning. Tony mentioned Rose Zhang, and I'd just like a little bit of a reminder here. We have a nice conversation with Rose at 4 o'clock on Thursday afternoon. And if you'd like to sign up and be part of the audience with this great amateur player, great junior player, go to scpga.com and sign up for the conversation this Thursday at 4 o'clock. So enjoy. It was a great day yesterday, and before we go too much farther, I'd like to thank Bryce Seaver and Nikki Gatch for their production of this 2-day virtual summit, as well as working very diligently and hard on every other piece to make this thing happen. And of course, as Tony said, with Jamie and Randy's leadership and their foresight to continue these great summits, hopefully next year at Pechanga, we'll be live with you in person, face-to-face with you. So let's look forward to that on the same dates. Today will be a great discussion covering how to teach and coach the golfer at your club and your facility, as well as a little bit on the business and marketing of the game and your business. So we look forward to that. Joining us this morning is a great group of some past section and chapter teachers of the year, including, as mentioned, Rick Sessinghouse, Tasha Bohlig, Bob Madsen, and of course, as mentioned before, our own SCPGA Teaching Committee Chair and 2020 SCPGA Teacher of the Year, Randy Chang. Not only is Randy our 2020 Teacher of the Year, he was also recognized with the same honor in 2010 from the Southern California section, as well as from the Aloha section in 2002. Randy has also been recognized numerous times for his work with youth and junior golf, and he founded both the Aloha Academy of Golf in Hawaii and the Randy Chang Golf Schools here in Southern California, where he currently coaches at Talega Golf Club and the Journey at Pechanga. Randy, thank you for all that you do and for your high interest and your leadership, both not only in the golf instruction and coaching field, but in the game of golf. Appreciate it. Randy Chang, ladies and gentlemen.
Thank you, Tom. Appreciate all the kind words and what you folks have done to really make this thing happen. We decided, actually you came to us, hey, why don't we get this thing virtually so people can continue to learn and educate themselves and get better as teachers and coaches. And that's one of our main goals on the teaching committee. Jamie and myself are really passionate about making sure that the best come out of Southern California and our section. And I think we've been able to accomplish that over the last few years by offering you these type of educational platforms. So With that, as you heard, we have some very special guests to be able to speak, as taking their time out of their extremely busy days, as we're starting to get extremely busy, both golf course and in the teaching and coaching. So this allows us an opportunity, to kind of take advantage of that. So that is a lot of what's going to be talked about today, is teaching those new people that want to come into the game, the people that want to get better. And we're going to have a lot of neat little insights that you can take home with you today. And with who we have, Bob Madsen, our 2017 Teacher of the Year. Bob has been recognized multiple times in his chapter in San Diego. He's the Director of Instruction at Sessinghouse Resort in San Diego. That's this Sequan now, I should say. He's been, again, a Professional Development Award winner, Teacher of the Year down there, and the 2018 inductee into the California Teaching Hall of Fame. Welcome, Bob. We also have Tasha Bohlig, who is our last year's 2019 SCPGA Teacher of the Year. She's the Director of Instruction at El Caballero Country Club in Los Angeles. She is TPI certified and a certified fitness instructor, which is, again, another big topic, and people concentrating on that part of the game even more. She has been a multiple U.S. Kids Top 50 coach and has twice been recognized as Golf Digest Best in State and Best Young Teacher in America. Tasha, welcome.
Morning.
And then we have very, very happy to have as well Rick Sessinghaus. Him and I've gone back a very long time teaching in this game when we're first getting started. As everybody knows, he is now been able to stamp himself as one of his students is a PGA, major winner. And I don't think there's a whole lot of us that can put that stamp on our resume. And we're also excited about that for him. He's an instructional editor for the Golf Tips magazine and has been seen on Fox Sports Network as a mental game contributor. He has a book out, The Ultimate Mind Game, and has been featured in National Golf Magazine, is used by leading golf instructors across the country as best resource to improve your mental game. So Rick, welcome, my friend.
Thanks, Randy. It's great to be here.
So what we're going to do today, everyone that's listening, we're going to try to make this as interactive as possible, as what we heard yesterday, by the way. Rick, I know we all listened to that. There's a ton of great information that came out. It's always intriguing to be able to hear what it's like teaching those tour players out on tour. Now you become part of that bunch out there, so I'm sure you get to go out there and hang out at those great golf courses, great tournaments. So anyways, so personally, congratulations with all the success that you had. Certainly much deserved, as I know how hard you've worked all these years. So congratulations on that. So let's get started. This is my first question on that. Okay, how do you define your philosophy, your coaching philosophy?
Sure, I think it always evolves, but when I first started teaching almost 27 years ago, I thought it was all about mechanics, and I thought the golf swing had to look a certain way, and I think with that, the obsession of technique was my first part. Then it went into the physical part. I worked for a company back then called Body Balance for Performance, became TPI certified, and I thought, well, it's about fitness, right? And it's about how the body moves and the limitations and stuff. And then I started going, there's got to be some more pieces to this puzzle. And really, my obsession is about the mental side of the game, of why some players were not able to transfer skills onto the golf course. And the other thing that means a lot to me is, are they actually enjoying the game? I think especially, I do get to work with a lot of competitive players, certainly, but it doesn't matter if they're competitive or not. It hurt me when players were not having fun and they'd come to a lesson and they were down on themselves. And it's easy for all of us to say, oh, it's a game, you're supposed to enjoy it. But come on, we've all played it and we know we enjoy it more when we play it better, right? So I think that's when I got more and more to the mental side of the game. And so my philosophy is more about what I call the performance factors all coming together. And I know a lot of the great teachers in this area, I don't know if we would call it a holistic approach, but I think we do need to understand all those components, right? We obviously need to learn how to teach the mechanics of the swing and the putting and the chipping. I think we have to understand how the body works. I think we have to understand some basic mental game components, understand how club fitting works, understanding how new technology is coming about. So as professionals, we got a lot of stuff that we have to keep up on. And so I think my philosophy has now come to more of an integrated approach, more about how does somebody actually apply their skills out on the golf course.
So that's getting into part of actually my discussion later on, as far as these people that are out there. You know, there's so much aspects to the game, kind of like our PGA membership, right? There used to be like 3 categories at one point: a head pro, an assistant pro, I think a teaching pro. Now there's how many? 20 some odd, 80 something different ways that you can basically specialize. So when in your career, as you're saying, did you decide, yeah, I want to focus specifically on the mental side of the game?
It was probably at least 15 years ago. You know, and sometimes we teach what we need to learn. And I was a very average Division I college golfer, yet I was frustrated with why didn't I get to that next level? And certainly I went down, oh, my swing's got to be more perfect. I got to do this. But I realized that it was my mental game that really got in the way of that. So I think I became obsessed with it out of college, but from a coaching perspective, it was at least 15 years ago that I went down that rabbit hole, as I call it, because I keep on getting deeper and deeper into that. And so, yeah, I went back to school and wrote a book and just in starting to understand a little bit how we learn, but more about, again, the state we're in. Mental, emotional, physical state is going to affect certainly our swing mechanics, our tension, our adrenaline, all these type of things. And then the other part of it was, like I said, is that I wanted to make sure I was giving my students all the skills to enjoy the game more. And I've had 18 handicappers come to me for mental game lessons to improve their enjoyment of the game. And sometimes it had not to do with actually playing better. And so it's been a journey for sure for me as a player, but as a coach for sure, the last 15 years I've been going deep dive on it.
I got one more question. How do you start coaching relationship, you know, with a new student? What's your process on that?
Sure, it's evolved a little bit. At first, it would be at the first lesson, so they're coming for the first lesson, and the first 15 minutes of it would be an interview type process that I've certainly picked up from other professionals of what are some key questions to ask. I certainly want to build rapport with the student, and I want to know what they want. As an early teacher, it would be me just telling them a lot of information, and then about 45 minutes in, you ask them finally, hey, what do you want? It was something completely different. And so I failed many a student because I wanted to tell them all this information and they were there for maybe something completely different. So nowadays, before I even see them for the first time, I'm giving them a 5-page assessment, which is to get to know their goals, get to know the practice habits, get to know, and I'm certainly this is mental game specific in a way, but I have people just for swing that I make them fill out the assessment. And I do that for a couple reasons. I want to see their commitment level. If they say they really want to work with me and they don't fill out the assessment, I already have a disconnect with them. And they come back to me and say, wow, I've never been asked some of these questions. And now I know more about my game. And I know that you could probably help me more than just beyond the swing. So I certainly have them fill out an assessment. I certainly talk about their physical, if there's any injuries, any limitations, because I think in this day and age, which we may get to a little bit later, some trends with, you know, people wanting to hit the ball so far and stuff like that, and people are looking at like, oh, I just do this training and their physical body there's no way they could go down that road. So I do ask a lot of questions. I want to develop rapport, but it really comes down to what do they want? And I'd say, hey, if you can be honest with me to tell me what your time frames are and how much you can actually work on your game and what you're going to have to sacrifice. That's a big question I ask a lot now is, what are you going to have to sacrifice to pursue these goals? And I don't care if it's a 12 handicap trying to get to single digit, or if it's a junior golfer trying to get into college. People don't understand that there's sacrifice in order to get better. And I want people to look at that as a positive. Hey, you're going to pursue this goal. I want to also check their motivation in that. So it's a lot of assessment tools, but then once I had that rapport, I think then we create now a relationship that lasts a long time.
Tasha, you got any questions?
Rick, thank you so much for being here, and congrats on all of your success and Colin's success.
So thank you.
You have obviously a tremendous reputation for the mental game. You've been talking about that quite a bit already. And just curious, are there any favorite mental game skills that you coach? And how do you like to coach them? So for some of us that are trying to implement some important tools in the mental game, any advice for us?
Sure. Yeah, I think, I always ask every new student 3 basic questions to begin with. And they sound very basic, but it's very important to create the foundation. So I always ask, and again, I get to work with competitive juniors and college players and such, and I ask them, hey, is the mental game of golf important? And they all say, oh yeah, Rick, it's important. I go, great. And I say, question number 2, do you train the mental game? And I get a blank stare. Well, not really, maybe. And I go, well, isn't it interesting that we all believe the mental game is important, yet we're not really training it formally? So right there, I have a disconnect, and they understand like, where's this guy gonna go now? And so the third question to create a foundation is, if we have to train something, we have to be able to define it. So I say to everybody, I say, hey, what is your definition of the mental game? And I've got all these great answers. And they're not wrong, because that's what their definition of the mental game is. But as we know as instructors, we better have a baseline of what we're working towards. And so I start to share, hey, here are what I believe some of the mental game fundamentals are. So I get into goals, and I say, hey, you remember that assessment that I had you fill out? Guess what? Each one of those sections had a different fundamental. And you told me about your goals, and then I asked you about your motivation. And then I asked about your practice habits. And then I asked about how you prep for tournaments. And then we have the section on focus and confidence and emotional control. And so I start to give them these big buckets to say, oh, yeah, now that I think about it, yeah, focus is pretty important on the golf course. And yeah, now that I think about it, I do get frustrated on the golf course. So I want them to have an understanding that these are fundamentals. And the other thing with the mental game is I want to make sure that people are not coming to me. I get parents who send their kids to me because they're broken. Oh, my kid is broken, you go to fix them. And I said, no, I don't do that. I work on performance skills that are always going to be evolving, but I don't fix anybody. And I don't want you to tell your junior that he's broken, okay? Because that's not true, okay? We all have different levels of skills, and maybe you're a 5 out of 10, great, let's go to a 6, let's go to a 7. So I start with those fundamentals, but my 2 main goals to try to make it more tangible is to help somebody recognize when they're at their best. And I want everybody who's listening right now, when you played your best golf, what state were you in? What were you thinking? What were you feeling? What you were doing, right? And sometimes it's super simple. Oh, Rick, it was pretty effortless. I was just out there carefree. I was confident. I was focused. They go, all right, great. Wouldn't it be nice to be able to train that state to show up more? But most people are going to push back and say, yeah, Rick, that happened because I played good golf. And I said, no, it's the other way around. You played good golf because you were in the right state. And so I really want to get into people understanding that they can control the state they're in. So that's the big overarching goal. The one that I start with people the earliest is just on a pre-shot routine, because most people have a concept of it, in saying, why do we do a pre-shot routine? And I get all these different answers. And I said, hey, for us, we're gonna do a pre-shot routine so you can be fully committed to the shot. And they go, oh, yeah. I said, what if you were focused, you were confident, you were calm on this golf shot? Do you think that would help you? They go, of course. But if you were distracted, if you had doubt, if you had tension, how's that gonna affect your mechanics? Oh, yeah, I know the difference. So I'm trying to get them to understand that there is sometimes a conflict with what they want and where they're at. And so the mental game skills, when I look at commitment to shot, certainly pre-shot routine. And I know a lot of these instructors that are on today teach pre-shot routine. And so one of the elements that I've definitely utilized is even with visualization. I know it's used a lot, but if all of us just went and asked our student, even on the range, is like, hey, okay, on this one, what does a good shot look like here? And they look at, what are you talking about? What does a good shot look like here? Because if they can verbalize it to me in such a way, it will actually help them understand how to visualize a shot. So the funny stories I always get is, I ask, hey, what's a good shot? And I do a lot of playing lessons. What's a good shot look like here? They go, well, Rick, I don't want to go in the front right bunker, and I don't want to skull it like I did yesterday. And I'm going, that wasn't the question. So a lot of our students are wired for negativity of what they don't want. And us as instructors are trying to say, no, 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 we've already dealt with that the first part of the pre-shot routine. We know there's a bunker there. That's why we're aiming 15 feet to the left. We know this there. That's why we're doing this. Now it's time for what do you want? And so when people get clarity and say, hey, Rick, I'm hitting 3/4, 750 feet left of the hole. It's going to start at that palm tree. It's going to come back 15 feet. It's going to land at 152 yards. Now I got some clarity. I got some confidence. So if they can now say that back with that amount of confidence and commitment, I know that I'm helping them in a pre-shot routine.
Yeah, absolutely. I love that. Just curious, because obviously Colin does an amazing job at everything we just talked about. But I would love, I think we would all love to hear your take on just Colin's success and what you attribute to the success and just how early and how young he is and just him ready for the moment. And we'd love to hear more about that.
Yeah, I mean, this brings a big smile to my face. It's something, again, we as PGA members have been so fortunate that we get to develop relationships with people. And whether they're 8 years old or 84 years old, we're fortunate that we get to be friends and mentors. And when we're working with juniors, I think it's even extra special, right? As they go through different development. And I have been so fortunate that I got to meet Colin when he was 8 years old. His parents have been a big foundation for obviously not only him as a person, but his growth in the game. I think what I saw with Colin early on is how coachable he was, in that he was talented and you could tell he knew how to hit a ball, great hand-eye coordination, but it's always great when you have somebody who wants to learn and who is open to failing. And so when I see a 12, 14, 16-year-old who, when they make a mistake, they don't slam clubs, and you say you stink, da, da, da. They want to know why. And he's always wanted to know why that didn't go where. And he would ask some very mature questions at a very early age, which pushed me as instructor, which was great. And he wanted to know why it worked, why it didn't work. So he was very coachable. He had more of a growth mindset than a fixed mindset. And I think what I was so lucky is that him and his parents trusted me to develop as a player, not just have a quick fix. I think, unfortunately, we get a lot of juniors that they may come to us because they know we're good instructors, and they say, hey, little Johnny needs to break 80 for his U.S. Kids Tour tournament next week, and it's so important. Because I'm like, chill. We got a lot of golf to play. He's 12 years old. We got a lot of golf to play. So I try to put it in perspective, and Colin and his parents they trusted me to look at development of 8 to 12 to 16 to college to now professional. And, I can't thank them enough for them to entrust me with that. And I don't take that for granted at all. And so I think when we looked at, just like I have every student, I knew what his goals were. And we created a plan, and it was more of what's 1 or 2 years ahead in my mind that I have to help him with. And so one of my favorite stories, which I shared before, is when he was, I think, 15 or 16 years old. He had just came back from playing PGA National, the Champions course there. And it was probably his poorest score performance in an AJGA event. And he came back to our lesson. And, we get a lot of students that make excuses. He's never made an excuse. And so he said, hey, Rick, I need to learn how to hit the ball into the wind. I had a lot of crosswinds there at PGA National, and I did not know how to flight my ball. And it wasn't, hey, I just shot my highest score in an AJJ event. It was because of the wind. It was no excuse in it. It was, oh, I have a blind spot that we didn't realize. We need to do better at this. That's when I go, holy smokes, he's different, because he wants to learn and he's not afraid to admit, I didn't play well, and this is why. Rick, I need your help. We need to learn how to flight irons. We need to work it. Because here in LA, we don't get the same winds as that they would get at West Palm Beach. So that's a small story that has never left him. So when it was in college, it was now developing him as a player within a system at Cal. You know, now you have a head coach and assistant coach telling you what to do. And then he played amateur events and he had to travel all over the country, and we had to get him ready for those type of things. And when he got to play in 2 PGA Tour events as an amateur, the second one at Bay Hill, I failed miserably that week preparing him. Now he made the cut, and I think he finished 35th or something like that. But after which we sat down and go, you know, what happened? He goes, Rick, we spent too much time at the facility because we were so excited. So we're doing 18-hole practice rounds, and then we have lunch, and then we go hit balls, and there's like, and now it's like, I don't think he's ever practiced after a tournament round, okay? And he manages his energy better. But part of that was the mistake I made with that event, and now we've had to change up practice, and we realize a lot. I mean, these guys play a lot of golf, and these guys have to be on a lot, and we have to manage energy better. And I think we've done a real good job when he turned pro. The other thing, about a year before he turned pro, we set out to make sure all of his equipment was in order. And what I mean by that is he had to try different balls, he had to try different drivers. I said, do it now, not when you get your sponsor's exemptions, when you're now trying new stuff. And so we were always thinking ahead. I've always had him have trainers that are looking at how his body's reacting and stuff like that. So again, I've been fortunate that we have a team of members that I've also relied on and asked questions, and Don Parsons up at Twin Lakes, and Preston Combs up there too, to help me with 3D and putting, and UGP with fitness, and TaylorMade with fitness, with club and stuff. So putting a team together has been vital as he's gotten older. But I'm telling you, he's got a mindset about him that he's extremely competitive, yet he loves golf. And I know that sounds strange, but we've all worked with college players and stuff like that. You go, why are you playing golf? And it's like, well, because it's a college scholarship, my parents, and there's no love for that anymore. I mean, being around somebody who loves the game and who has joy about it is very fortunate. And I believe if you enjoy something, you play better at it. So again, Colin is continuing to develop. We're always looking at stats. We're always looking at how we can make him better. We've already talked about him playing at Augusta here in about a month. We've talked about how to draw his 3-wood and his driver for hole 10 and hole 13. We're thinking ahead. He has got a fantastic caddy in JJ, and so I think as I've gotten older, putting a team together has been even more important because I can't be an expert in all areas. So again, great attitude, always learning, and he works very efficiently. He's not going to be a guy who's hitting 1,000 balls a day. We've done most of our learning on the golf course throughout the last 15 years. So hope that answers the question. I could go on and on.
No, it's great. I actually just have a quick follow-up question before Bob weighs in. You said something really beautiful about Colin just being very open to fail. And I'm wondering, for us as coaches, is there anything that we can do to somewhat tweak that mindset for our students, and maybe drills or favorite exercises to work on that?
Yeah, no, I think it's wonderful. And I think the word failure, of course, is loaded in people's psyche. And so sometimes I may use the word feedback instead of failure. But even if I use the word failure with Colin, it wouldn't change his mindset. But one thing that I did with him, because we did most of our lessons on the golf course, is we allowed for, and this is both, we can say dealing with failure, but how to have feedback, and then also creativity. I was trying to doing creativity and feedback together. And so I would throw 3 balls down in a spot. Let's say we're in the right rough on an upslope lie. to a par 4. We still have 167 in, something like that. And we put situational, and the first ball, he always got to choose what he wanted. So maybe when he was younger, it was a 5-iron, okay? And then he would hit the shot, and I would say, okay, Colin, you do get another shot now. What did you notice about that or experience that you would now make an adjustment for? So I'm not telling him anything yet. And you go, well, Rick, that ball came out like a flyer. I'm gonna actually take 1 club less. I'm gonna aim a little bit more to the left. And again, I did not put anything like that's a good or bad decision at all, okay? Because I'll admit something. I've learned more from my players than they've probably learned from me, because they hit shots like, oh, I didn't see that one. And then they hit a guy, go, oh, that was pretty good. So I keep learning from how they perceive shots. But so you would hit the second one, and I say, hey, any feedback on that? But then on the ball 3, I would chime in and say, hey, this is how I view the shot. Hey, did you about how that upslope lie was going to affect that? Maybe you're going to hit a high pull off that or something like that. And so when that's the environment I create, is about feedback, in that we have all these possibilities that could happen, but I want somebody to always be learning from the result. So, oh, gosh, dang it, that ball went high left. I didn't see that coming. I wonder why. Oh, Rick, you're right. I didn't pay attention to the upslope lie, which now you put the ball more back in stance. I'm going to aim. And to me, it was then just a coaching student conversation. It wasn't, you did this bad. You know, sometimes we have parents that say, that was bad. That was you did this bad. And, hey, I misread it. The greens were faster than I thought. I'll make an adjustment. But then we get, it's like cringeworthy how people react to an outcome. I think as coaches, we also need to be almost kind of calm and stoic about a shot. It's like, oh, that ball went left. Huh, I wonder why it went left. Instead of, that's the worst driver I've ever seen this today, right? So in their mind, we have to have them reframe what the shot means a little bit more. So I'm more about feedback and about giving somebody another opportunity and creating something different.
Great, thank you. Bob, you're up.
Yeah, thanks again, Rick. And any advice to coaches on building their coaching business?
Yeah, I think they didn't tell me this at PGA school back in the day, but I thought if I just became a really, really good teacher, that business would take care of itself. And I was fortunate where I first got to teach at Shoal Canyon Golf Course in Glendale, that they gave me the opportunity to grow my business however I wanted. Okay, so I was very fortunate to start, but that didn't mean it grew overnight. I think the 2 things that has helped my success the most would be finding something that you are that you want to be an expert in. Like, very good swing coach, I do, but I believe I'm an expert in the mental game. And why that's important, I think, in this day of specialization, is that if you're known to be one of the best in that niche, you have less competition for one. You can charge more money too, because it's like a general practitioner as a doctor and a brain surgeon. Okay, they went through a lot of medical school. One's going to get paid a lot more, and that niche, I believe, can help us as instructors. I do. With that being said, I do believe we have to have a very good base of to learning how to coach a lot of different areas. But I get passionate about the mental game, so guess what? I'm going to learn more and more about that. And so I would say everybody, as we get into this more specialization, is what you are passionate about, what do you believe you can add value to in our business, and become the best that you can at that. Like I said, yeah, I know there's some mental game coaches around, but I have a lot less competition than those that are swing instructors trying to fix a slice, okay? And you better be very, very good at that, okay? The second thing I would say is I was fortunate to create relationships with, obviously, the Southern California PGA, the Southern California Golf Association, has allowed me to have platforms to where myself and Ted Gleason, who has a company called Road to College Golf, we've spoken probably 20 times together at these SCGA Junior Golf Summits. It was completely free. But the business that I was provided, the branding, the help that SCGA did to get my name out was tremendous. Same thing with the PGA has been fantastic about promoting, but putting myself out there and speaking about that subject, the mental game for junior golfers, and going on Southern California and not getting paid for any of that. I think if we can make joint ventures with organizations and give our time and our expertise, I think that can also help grow it tremendously. And the last thing I should say is, I talked about team a lot. We have so many wonderful professionals in our area and across the country. Is reach out. People have reached out to me, hey, I want to know a little bit more mental game. So we'll have a conversation about that. And with TaylorMade, I just was picking the brain of one of their putting design person, because I don't know much about equipment, to be honest with you. And I didn't know the difference between a long neck and this neck and what it does to this. I'm like, holy smokes, I got stuff to learn. So start developing a team and people around you, I think, is going to help your business, because they'll refer to you, you refer people to them. And I think that's a great way to grow business.
Another one, please. Tell us, what is player development and what trends do you see, please?
Yeah, and I like the term player development a lot, because as I mentioned with Colin and with the students that I have, I'm looking long term. So to me, that is development, and having them see there are different steps, and for them to see where we're going to take their goal helps keep them motivated. I think we're seeing an interesting trends, which a few years ago it would certainly be everybody's got to have a TrackMan or flight scope, some kind of radar system, because we want to know all this information. And I think that information is important. Don't get me wrong. And this is just my own opinion. I think the trend's going to be to how to play golf better and getting on the golf course. And I think, talking about expertise, if you became the coach that was the best at playing lessons, and you took 3 people out and you did playing lessons, I think that gets around pretty quick. That, wow, I get to have fun. I get to have a teacher pro with me the whole time. I get to be with my buddies. We get to learn stuff like that. I believe that we're going to be able to put all these puzzle pieces together if we can actually put them together out on the golf course. The trends of the tech stuff, I think, is useful from a data standpoint. I'm just not quite sure, because again, here's my mental game bias coming out. If I had too many things to think about, okay, what are my smash factor numbers with my angle of attack, and don't forget my path numbers to this. I'm losing the sense of playing the game and creativity, and I'm seeing that a little bit with some of the players that I've seen in college, where the obsession with getting perfect numbers is overriding the obsession about creating a golf shot and such. So I think the trends are going to go more towards how to play the game now that we have all the gadgets, and I'm excited for that, because I think that's where it should be taught and learned.
Great, thank you so much.
Welcome.
Bob, I know you liked hearing that. So we'll be talking obviously a lot about that here in a little bit. So
The dude stole like
Rick,
half my stuff.
Yeah, I know. He was talking with mine too, as far as specializing. So I think we can all leave now for today. But with that, Rick, you talked briefly about the parents part of it, and how Colin was kind of a natural. He was kind of an anomaly than what you normally deal with, right? With having all those characteristics. Like, I'm just in my mind like a John Rahm, who had that real issue of only because it's really competitive, but how that anger really hurt him more than help him. So with the parents especially, we heard a little bit about that yesterday too, when they were talking about this. So what about those that come in and give you a little problem with that? How do you sit them down and make them understand it? I guess it's easy for you now, because you have a nice little model that's a success, but for a lot of us on this call, I feel like I have to do more of an interview with the parents than with the child, with the children.
Sure. No, and again, with Colin's success, I'm very fortunate that these parents do listen a little bit better. I'm not saying they do everything, but they do listen better. And it comes down to expectations, period. Is that the parents are, they're so obsessed with what little Johnny's doing as a 12-year-old, they don't see the big picture. And so I try to put it in perspective to say Colin was never the #1 ranked Southern California junior, never ranked #1 in the nation, never won. I mean, all these things. So they go, oh, really? I thought he was winning everything. I go, he never won an AJGA event. And Colin jokes to this day, he goes, I think I can win one now. He goes, I think I could be in that field and win, right? But he put it in perspective. Okay, I didn't win an AJGA event, but I got better and better and better. 4-time All-American at Cal. And I want people to understand that, and we've seen it, unfortunately, we've seen it the other way, where we get these world beaters who are 14, 15 years old, and then we don't hear from them when they're 18, 19, for various reasons, okay? But I'm trying to help a perspective of a parent, and I think it starts with expectations. So I flat out say, what is the expectations you have for little Johnny? And I get some interesting answers on that. You know, either the old, you know, they should always be in the top 5, or they should never shoot over par. And I go, holy smokes, wow. And you know, we know the juniors are feeling that pressure all the time. So yes, I'm fortunate that I can tell them about players that I've worked with that gone to colleges that were never the best of the best, and yet they kept going along. But then I do tell them some of those sad stories. Like, hey, I did work with the parent of a very, very talented junior who that parent and that junior no longer talked. The relationship was split once the player got to college. I said, is that what you want? They got to college, but now you don't have a relationship with your son or daughter. And I try to give them like, hey, there's a lot of these stories out there. And so I'm back into setting reasonable expectations, not the word I use, but for them, reasonable expectations. I said, as a parent, you have every right, I have 3 kids, every right to not be happy if their behavior is poor on the golf course, slamming clubs, saying, or they're not treating people with respect. But you cannot, you know, get them for their performance, because they're going to associate that so much with love and caring from their parents that it's really difficult from as they get older, excuse me. So I try to set reasonable expectations. I tell them some good and bad stories that I've witnessed, or that other players have, other coaches have witnessed, to help them say, hey, what are we doing this for the first place? Hopefully to support your kids and love them, and hopefully they love what they're doing, and you can see the smile on their face, not to grill them because they 3-putted on 18, you know? So I get very passionate about that big time.
Tasha, Bob, you got any other questions for Rick?
You know, Rick, I just had a quick question about the assessment you were talking about earlier. It's a little selfish because it's things that I'm really interested in, but I'm just curious, do you have any like favorite questions, or really telling, like you said, you can really tell if someone doesn't do the assessment? That tells you a lot. But do you have any favorite things that you like to ask?
Yeah, I think, well, there's 2 things, because it would take somebody about a good 20 minutes to fill the whole thing out, right? But if I get it back and I just get yes, no, yes, no, yes, no, that's a telling sign. And then there's a few questions, like one question's about motivation. You know, basically I'm asking, why do you play golf? And I work with competitive players. So one answer could be for the trophies, for parents' recognition, and the other one could be for the love of sport, competition, or you know, inner drive, stuff like that. Basically, I'm setting them up to see, are they extrinsically motivated or intrinsically motivated, okay? Now, some put both, I go, fine, okay? But if it's just for a scholarship, for awards, for recognition, that's a red flag for me, because I know as they get older and older, they're not gonna win as much. And then if they don't have that recognition, how are they gonna deal with the down part of it? So that motivation question is important for me, is like, why are they playing golf? Is a big one. And then with confidence, I ask them indirectly, I ask how sturdy or fragile their confidence is. Like, how many bad shots does it take for you to lose confidence? And then how many good shots does it take for you to regain confidence? And that sets a little bit of how their belief systems about their game are. So those are a couple things. And then when I talk about tournament preparation, like, do they have a pre-round routine? Do they have know how to do a proper practice round? Those things at least are good starting points when they go, oh, now to think about it, I don't really know how to do a practice round. I go, great, I'm gonna help you out with that. So that's just some some of the ideas that I throw out there to them.
Thank you.
I have one, please. Talking about coaching, average golfers and beginning golfers, and maybe talking a little less about coaching and teaching tour players at the elite level. Can you give us a couple of nuggets that you would think would be invaluable coaching a novice or a beginner, someone who's begun, or a quote unquote average golfer, please?
Sure. Yeah, I still enjoy of course the smile on someone's face who's a 25 handicap and they come back and they break 90 and they reach their own goals, because I want to help develop players of what their goals are and bring that joy. And I think it's, I've used the word expectations a few times today, is I think as a coach, I want to set more realistic short-term expectations, but certainly want to push them for long-term goals that they're thriving for. I think as we've seen now with the COVID, we're seeing so many people playing golf, which is awesome, right? And taking more golf lessons. I just want to make sure that those students, when they get into it, are being realistic with their expectations. So I used the word sacrifice before. People get all fired up about, okay, yeah, I'm gonna do this, do that, and then life says, oh, that's right, I've got kids and I've got a job, and I've got the. So I try to help build a healthy expectations early on. And then when they say, I can't have my time, I go, great, but could you do 10 minutes of mirror work at home? Could you do, and I try to get them to see that it's not just this traditional, I have to go to the range, I have to do this. And I want them, even if it's just watch TV and watch the pros on the weekend, hey, what'd you learn from that? Wow, they got smooth, balanced finish. I go, yeah, that'd be a nice thing for you to have too. Could you do that? They go, oh, I could do that, right? And so I believe that I see a lot of these, the novice beginners, they get super excited at the first part, and then when they hit that first obstacle, I want to know how they're going to deal with that. So I want them to have reasonable expectations. I want them to look at the long term, but give them these small little wins along the way, I think is really important for us as coaches.
I'll speak for myself. When you presented at Desert Willow some years ago, I was super impressed because you kept the human being in mind. What's it like to be the recipient of the lesson? And it's inspired me all along to be super personalized with every client. Every program is different. Every recipe is different. Every lesson is different. And so I want to thank you for helping me make that a basis of what I do every day. Thank you.
Appreciate that, Bob. Thank you very much. Thanks.
Yeah, I can echo the same sentiments myself. Rick, we want to really thank you for coming on today. I know your schedule is probably getting really packed. By the way, I had that real quick last question. With your supply and demand, has your prices gone through the roof now, or?
They have increased, yes, sir.
Deservedly so.
So I know you have to. I know you have to get going. Good luck this week. We'll all be rooting for Colin out there close by. So it's unfortunate that we all couldn't go out there and support him, personally. But again, thank you so much for coming on out. And again, congratulations for all your success.
Thank you, Randy. Thank you, Bob. Thank you, Tasha.
Thanks, Rick.
Thank you to the entire PGA. Really appreciate it.